Hello and welcome to the program. I am Mary Kanu. Now, exactly how many Nigerians are unemployed in the country? That is the question everyone is asking. This is because Nigeria's unemployment rate has dropped, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Now, on Thursday, August 24th, the NBS had released a revised unemployment figure in the country, standing at 4.1% in the first quarter of 2023. The new approach, which aligns with the International Labour Organization's guidelines, revealed a sharp drop in the country's unemployment rates from the 33.3% as at the fourth quarter of 2020. In arriving at the new figure, the NBS said the old methodology defines the working age population as those within the age bracket of 15 to 64 years and considers working between 20 and 39 hours as underemployed, as well as those working between 1 and 19 hours as unemployed was wrong. Since it was released, the Labour report has been met with mixed reactions. Some analysts have questioned the accuracy of the new methodology, arguing that it may have led to an underestimation of the true level of unemployment in the country. What then do we make of Nigeria's current unemployment reality? The Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association at Adewale Oyerinde, joins me now on the program. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, help us understand the mix-up in Nigeria's current job data and the accuracy of the new methodology, adopted by the National Bureau of Statistics to arrive at the 4.1% statistics.
Well, it's a matter of, how do I call it? A matter of parameter. Before now, the NBS was using a parameter, a globally accepted parameter, as adopted by the ILO and its constituents, which says that once you are working 40 hours above, you are seen to be employed. Working age between 15 and 65, if I'm correct. Now, the parameter was recently changed, taking cognizance of some other factors, which was adopted by the National Bureau of Statistics. We must say that it wasn't the contraption of the National Bureau of Statistics. That parameter was adopted at the international meeting of the statisticians, world statisticians, and I think Nigeria was also part of it. We were also part of that meeting where the new parameter was adopted as a comparative use by all nations. Now, the parameter tends to expand or open up the scope of working hours or working age, other than from 15 to 65 to 15 to 100. It also expanded the context of work to that if you are working at least 1 hour per week, you are deemed to be employed. At least 1 hour per week, you are deemed to be employed, which also opens up the sample size for use, in that research. Now, two things for us to note critically is you can change your parameter. It will give you a figure. You change the parameter, it gives you another figure. Now, the reality on ground might not, or the data currently that we have currently might not speak to the reality on ground, but to the extent of the parameter that was used, then those figures are valid. Now coming to the reality of it, to our general understanding of work, what do we think when we hear somebody is employed? The context, our current context of work, of somebody is employed, basically to a large extent differs from the parameter that was adopted by the ILO and which many other countries have adopted. it doesn't invalidate that parameter. Our reality is quite different. And we have preached something and we have requested some other things. And look, yes, the global parameter is valid to the context of the global community, but we also do well to look at the best fit, what will best communicate our true position within the context of unemployment and within the context of underemployment and within the context of all issues surrounding unemployment conversation. So the current parameter that was used and the current figure, in reality, I'm looking at every other macroeconomic issue that we have, might not really communicate the true picture to an average individual. To say the unemployment rate is less than 5%. The reality still remains that there are fundamental issues, there are serious unemployment issues in this country, and there is serious cost of living and standard of living challenges that an average Nigerian is facing. Do we throw away the submission by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics? I don't think so. The position that we have taken is, while the NBS has done its work of coming up with a data that is globally comparative to what every other country is using within the context of that parameter, and it's now for stakeholders, for government to go beyond the data and start conversing about what the data is not saying. If the data says it captures people working at least 1 hour and it captures them as being working, if the data says it captures now those doing freelancing, if it captures those that are working, that are still in employment above 70. Now, rather than the brouhaha that we have currently, I think we should all come back to bring those data and interpret it within our context as a nation. And look at what exactly is this data not telling us for us to now make some sense of what the Bureau of Statistics has come up with. We believe strongly it is a document that can still be used within the context of advocacy and deepening our conversation about which state do we have correctly. Does it negate, does it tell us that the economy is booming? We don't think so, because the economy is not booming. Does it say that the most Nigerians are now getting jobs and getting employed? It doesn't say the situation has changed significantly, because all the parameters is saying contrary. So for us, it's going back to that data, the data itself, and digging deep to find out what exactly the data is not saying. Lastly, for me, is this. We fear that the data will be weaponized, and that's what we are seeing currently. Somebody mischievous can pick the data and say, look, unemployment rate has reduced, therefore, businesses are generating employment, which is not so. Somebody can look at it and say, look, this figure says that many Nigerians are now gainfully employed. It is not so. But we have to look at the data holistically and pick out the things that the data itself are not seeing. We have to take the data and address the fundamental issues which the data is not communicating.
All right, with the new methodology, who can be categorized as the underemployed and in Nigeria, and what is the actual level of unemployment in the country as of 2023?
Our opinion doesn't really make a difference if there is a standard parameter to use. The reason why there is no confusion, about concepts is because there should be a general benchmark or a globally accepted framework. Because let's take the issue of minimum wage. If there is no generally accepted parameter to measure minimum wage, or let's take GDP growth. If there is no general parameter to measure GDP growth or GDP rate, then everybody will be free. Country A can come up with its own parameter and say, we are going to use this to measure GDP growth. Country B can come up with its own parameter, which creates a lot of confusion. But because there's a globally accepted parameter to measure GDP, we all ascribe to it, and all countries of the world continue to use that parameter. Now, whether the parameter will give you the true picture of your GDP growth is a different thing. Each country has to come back to their subnational and look, are we really growing in spite of what the figure is saying or not? If you also remember, when Nigeria rebased its economy, at the point we were not as we are not in the top rank as we are now. At the point the government rebased the economy, and then after the rebasing, we jumped ahead of South Africa as the biggest economy in the continent. So the parameter that was used was just basically a new parameter that brought us far ahead of South Africa. And in this context, what the MBS has done is also to change the parameter. Now, whether our economy is bigger than South Africa or not is another conversation that we'll have. But with the context component of that parameter that was used, it shows that we have moved this point or this point. So we define those that are not employed one way, but the general framework of defining it might be different. What we have known over time and what all of us have known is, look, anybody working 40 hours, at least 40 hours a week, 40 hours a week, yeah, is deemed to be working, to be employed. But now the new parameter is saying, look, if you work at least 1 hour, you are deemed to be employed, which does not possible with the reality on ground and what we have known. It creates a bit of contradiction. So for us, it is less of redefining it. If we are redefining it, we are redefining it on what context, on what basis, on what globally accepted parameter are we making are we redefining it? So it will further create confusion because we will define it somehow. Organized labor will define it one way, government will define it one way. So everybody with interest will define it in the context of his interest, which also creates a lot of confusion in the system. So for us, while the MBS has done its bit coming up with the new figures based on the parameter he has used, then it's now left for us as stakeholders to go back, as I said, dig into those figures. What are the things that are not captured or the things that the figures are not saying to us? That will now help us within the context of planning as government, planning as employers, and then planning as organized labor.
Now, what factors would you say are responsible for the current level of unemployment the country is witnessing?
Currently, following the Russian-Ukraine war, the shocks began. In Nigeria, we are also affected significantly. We have organized businesses struggling fundamentally to remain sustainable. We have businesses struggling to remain competitive, all because of the inhospitable environment. Availability of forex was a big challenge to organized businesses. It's still a big challenge. The regulatory environment and the legislative environment is still very inhospitable. So businesses are being squeezed from different angles. And as businesses are being squeezed, the owners of the business, the owners of capital will decide, look, is this environment conducive for me to continue to operate? If the environment is not conducive, then the owners of business will most likely take their businesses to other areas where the environment is conducive. We've had the issue of businesses closing shops within the last 6 months. More than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses recognized big businesses with high turnover of employees, they were closing down and leaving the country in droves. That is because it's becoming very, very difficult to operate within the Nigerian environment. Multiplicity of taxes, we currently say over businesses are paying over 60 different taxes at both the federal, state, and local government level. There are also about another 18 to 20 bills. The National Assembly that also has some component of tax, whether the employer will pay 0.05%, 0.5%, or 0.1% of their profit after tax or profit before tax. Still to government. We have the TED fund that was Tertiary Education Fund that was initially 2.5%. It was increased to 3% in the Finance Act. So all these things chokes an average business. And once the business cannot survive, what you naturally do is one, either reduce your capacity utilization. And once you reduce capacity utilization, you know that it is most likely some employees will be asked to go. Worst of it is when the business closes up or relocates to another country to operate. Then you have mass number of Nigerians also moving into the labor market. We also have challenges at the legislative space, where legislatures, one ad hoc committee or the other, are also breaking down the neck of businesses. It will be difficult for an investor to come to this country and operate because of all these bottlenecks. So our cry has been to the new government, look, we need to create an environment that is hospitable for business, an environment that will encourage investors to come into this environment and operate. Without that, we'll still continue to have spikes and spikes in unemployment rate with massive socioeconomic consequences for all of us.
Well, your response, brings me to the next question. Currently, Nigeria is ranked 131 among 190 economies in the ease of doing business, according to the latest World Bank, annual ratings. Now, that's despite offering multinational businesses the largest market on the continent. So, what do you think the government is not doing to ensure a hassle-free business environment?
It's one thing for the government to make pronouncements. Then it's one thing for the operationalization of the good policies. Because sometimes government will, at the federal level, will come up with very laudable policies, but even in the same system, you have inherent contradictions. As one policy is promoting enterprise competitiveness, you have another policy creating bottlenecks, or another agency of government creating bottlenecks for organized businesses. Sometime last week, let me give you an example. Sometime last week, we have an issue of Lagos State's Physical Planning Authority, going around Lagos State and shutting down businesses because of one infraction or the other. Our view then was this, and our view remained this. And shut down a business that is legally established, that has been adjudged to paying his tax, a business that is responsible to his employees, responsible to stakeholders, and also contributing to employment generation. Why go and shut down that kind of business because of an alleged infraction? Why not let's employ more of a consultative engagement, a more structured engagement to improve or encourage compliance? Now, if you shut down the business, you think you are hurting the business owner. Meanwhile, you are hurting the economy of the state. You are hurting the employees that probably will be impacted if the business go under. And you are hurting the ability of that business to pay tax to even the state government that you are working for. So those examples, or these examples, they pervade the whole strata of our economy, both at the state level. It's worse at the local government level because of the Gestapo style that the local government guys just go harass businesses, shut them down. If businesses are not cooperating, they go to the extent of even destroying some of their properties. And it happens across board, even at the legislative space also. The legislatures inviting businesses every other time for one hearing of the other. We feel this is a holistic approach to the issue of promoting enterprise competitiveness and promoting our ease of doing business. That figure you found that we are 130 something 30 something in about fear enough
131.
figure was even as we
130.
speak. 131, yes. If not worse, even as we speak. Yeah.
All right, we have to go on a break now, so let's take a short break. But the program returns shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back to the program. The new figure on Nigeria's unemployed and underemployed has raised concerns, with many asking for a way out of the quagmire. The Director General, Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, Adewale Oyerinde, has been answering the questions. Now, recent reports have shown that the kinds of jobs needed, to generate income growth and lift many Nigerians out of poverty are not available in large numbers. So, what measures would you say, or what measures can the government implement to bridge the productivity gap and build, economic resilience?
Now, those jobs might not be available for now, but the potential is there. We have massive potential in construction. Construction is one area that can generate massive employment. We have the textile industry. We have all conspired to bring the textile industry to its comatose state now. Rather than wear made in Nigerian fabrics, we are all obsessed with imported material. Even at the government level, we are all obsessed with imported material and conspire to kill the textile industry. So let's focus on construction. Let's focus on textile. Let's focus on manufacturing. That is the real sector. There is massive opportunity also in telecoms. The potential across board for our economy is so massive. What we need is government to create that environment, create tax incentives, give holidays when you need to, encourage backward integration, and let's bring back the concept of productivity to our national life. Our options are tending to zero with the level of debt that we have. And we suspect at the point, even the creditors might be weary of borrowing us money. Let's look backward. Let's encourage the local manufacturing industries. Let's encourage the agri sector. Let's encourage the construction sector. That is the way we can wrap up productivity and then get our nation back into the trajectory of growth. Our option, as I said, is tending to zero.
All right, so how would you rate the past administration in handling the challenges facing Nigeria's labor market?
Well, they did their best, but in the last administration, there are many inherent contradictions, as I said, as one agency of government, probably as the Ministry of Labor and Employment, is trying its best to promote job creation. Then you have another agency or you have another level of government creating bottlenecks to stifle the growth of that same sector. And one shortcoming, that fundamental shortcoming of last administration, is those contradictions, the inability of the government to deal with those contradictions. There are so many interagency, interministerial rivalry that they are not only in the inner room, they are also in the public space. And the coordination of the activities of those ministries and agencies is so bad that it's affected, or it affected the ability of organized businesses to plan. So that was a major shortfall that we found. If that had been done, it would have been easier for businesses to plan, been easier for you to attract new foreign direct investment, but that was not done. We just hope, and we hope seriously that the new Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edu, and also the coordinating Minister of the Economy will do much more in fostering interministerial and interagency collaboration for the good of the country.
All right, finally, before I let you go, President Tinubu has sworn in new ministers in the labor and employment sector. What are your expectations of these new ministers?
Well, we have no doubt in the competence and capacity of the new Minister of Labor and Employment and then the Minister of State to navigate the ship of the ministry to a successful sail. For the new minister, we expect it will thrive, in collaboration with the social partner. We expect that it will deepen the reforms in the Nigerian industrial relations sector. We expect that it will fast track the strengthening of labor administration institutions like the Industrial Arbitration Panel, the National Industrial Court, and others. We also expect that we'll fast track the passage of the Nigerian labor law. The bill is almost completed. The work is ongoing with the Ministry of Justice, and we expect that it will be passed quickly to the executive so that they can send it to the National Assembly as an executive bill. We also expect that it will deepen social dialogue within the social partners so that the era of strike and lockout every other time will be reduced. They have all the ingredients, they have all parameters to succeed, and we believe once again that with good faith and open-mindedness, I think they can take the ministry to another level.
All right, now Adewale Oyerinde, Director General, Nigeria's Employers Consultative Association. Thank you very much for your time and your contribution on the program.
Thanks a lot.
Well, that's our program for today. Thank you very much for staying with us. I am Mary Kanu. Bye for now.